We've been talking about in terms of the shooting we saw yesterday in Winder, Georgia, where the case goes from here. I think of recent school shootings, Oxford, Michigan. You had both parents in that case. That they were charged, they were convicted of supplying weapons to their son who took part in the shooting. You have this father of this 14-year-old who was also questioned by the FBI over some concerning posts on social media. What responsibility could this father have in terms of the law?
You know, Chris, it's a very interesting question because on one hand, the argument can be made that if the father was aware, he was put on alert that his son is having issues, that during a video game that he was playing about a year ago, there was a complaint that an anonymous tip that he was threatening to shoot up his school. And the FBI investigated it. And the father was there. The defendant was there. He vehemently denied it. He was 13 at the time. He said, "That's crazy. I would never do such a thing." And the FBI left it, saying that the accusations were unsubstantiated. But he's living with this father, so the father presumably has a good idea or better idea of what's going on with his son on a daily basis than the FBI. So on that reasoning, the father, the parents could be looking at criminal charges like the other case you just mentioned. But you can bet that the father would argue, hey, the FBI was sitting there with my son and they cleared him. If the FBI that has all the investigative resources and know-how and psychiatrists and psychologists that they know how to profile someone, if they're telling me that we're good, I'm taking their word at face value. If we can't trust the FBI, who can we trust? That could be a very interesting argument on itself.
And about these social media posts, and it's come to light today that Discord was the platform where there were some posts last year, some threats about a school shooting. A Discord spokesperson has told us they don't, that first they deactivated the account because it broke what they say were extremist guidelines, but then also they don't believe that this account that they're attributing to the suspect was speaking specifically about what happened yesterday. But in terms of, because especially with this platform, we've heard it when it comes to extremist content and threats, what liability is there on the platform for being a place where people are posting extremist views and potentially threats?
So I believe it's commonly referred to as Federal Section 230, and it's basically a statute, a federal statute that protects third-party websites, platforms from liability in situations like this. The idea being that third-party platforms, Discord and other video game platforms, social media platforms, they are just the middlemen. And therefore, they're saying we're just facilitating information exchange between people. So for us to be held liable for what people are saying or exchanging or doing amongst one another, that would be too much. And there's been a plea for several years now for that federal statute to be amended to account for situations like this. But it does raise a very good public policy argument. Should we, as citizens, expect these third-party platforms like a Discord to be the babysitters, to be the police, to be monitoring everything that people are saying? Because the argument can be made it is overwhelming. And then you also have the side of people saying, well, what about my privacy protections? I don't want Big Brother. I don't want people monitoring everything I'm saying or doing. So these competing interests make it very difficult for our legislators to wrap their heads around this issue.
And I've been told today that the FBI was notified about these posts. They did not specifically interview the suspect, but passed it along to the Jackson County Sheriff's Office here in Georgia that did the interviewing. For you, Lou, I mean, you see kind of the questions that remain. What stands out to you at this point?
Well, and just to touch on what you just said,
yeah,
it still doesn't take away from the father saying if the FBI didn't think it was worth pursuing personally and they handed it off to local law enforcement, again, if we can't trust the FBI, who can we trust? The argument, I think, still does carry a lot of weight. But I think the takeaways are as follows. One, this is another very tragic shooting in schools. Kids should not be afraid to go to school. And I think the public is just tearing their hair out saying, what is it going to take for the legislators to fix this issue, whether it's gun control, whether it's mental health, but do something. You know, it's gone too long for inaction at this point. And again, the sad state is we have a 14-year-old who probably needed mental health treatment, didn't get it when he needed it, and unfortunately now we see the deaths of several innocent people and families broken as a result. Very sad for everybody.
It really is, and something that stands out to me too, because you go on even Twitter, now X or Instagram, and people will make comments and jokes, satire about even the darkest of things, including school shootings. It's not uncommon to see that. So I think about, I guess in your line of work, I mean, how often are there these cases where there's a student who posts something thinking it would be funny on a Discord or whatever social media it may be, and then in come the authorities and they're like, oh no, I was just kidding, it was a joke, or it just wasn't me, and it just moves along. I mean, how big is this problem where you have people talking about what can be a very real threat?
I think anytime there's a threat of this nature, even if it doesn't seem to be that serious, it needs to be thoroughly vetted. I have cases like this. I've represented juveniles about this age that have been accused of these types of things, and they've been charged. We get them into residential treatment programs. We get psychologists involved, and the court makes sure, everyone involved makes sure that before this person goes home to mom and dad, that this is not going to happen, that whatever was underlying this person's decision-making or ability to post such things has been corrected, that this person has been rehabilitated. The system failed everybody here when there was a tip made. This should have been thoroughly vetted, not just a, by the way, a quick interview. There should have been mental health professionals swooped in from the get-go. And because that wasn't done, unfortunately, this is what we see today.
All right, certified criminal law specialist Lou Shapiro, thank you for coming on. We appreciate it.
You got it.
And as we